Good morning. Welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Thursday, May 3rd, 2012. The situation in Beijing right now is getting increasingly confusing. Hillary Clinton, the U.S. Secretary of State, is there, as well as the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, and so is Chen Guangcheng, the blind Chinese activist who left the American Embassy protection yesterday to go to the hospital, supposedly after he heard that his wife and children were either being beaten or would be beaten. Now, Mr. Guangcheng is saying he wants to leave China with his family on the Secretary of State's plane tomorrow. We'll see what happens. But somewhere in Beijing, discussions are going on between the leaders of both countries, and supposedly they're not discussing the dissident. Don't believe that for a second. News from London that political risk underwriters there are on full alert over possible increasing nationalization efforts in Argentina. The government of President Kirchner, as you know, nationalized the 51% stake of the Repsol company owned by a Spanish oil company. That stake might have approached something like $10.5 billion. Underwriters are saying they are not going to write any more political risk cover in Argentina right now because the numbers are simply too big. And they also note that in the past few years, the airline Aerolíneas Argentina was nationalized, as was the country's largest water utility and the postal service, which had formerly been privately held. Figures released by the Bank of England yesterday showed that the UK money supply shrank by 5% last year to a record low. And the reason for this is that banks continue to scale back their lending to businesses. They also revealed that banks have continued to pull out of lending to small companies by charging even higher premiums. Banks, investors, and regular people are apparently hoarding their money and putting it into government securities rather than actually spending it. It does not bode well for the UK, which slipped into recession last month. The insurance company, The Hartford, saw its net profits slide on hedging losses for the first quarter. They reported an 81% drop in quarterly income, down to $96 million, mainly driven by realized losses from hedges against the Japanese yen and equity markets. They still did show core earnings of $1.25 a share, way ahead of Wall Street's consensus of 91 cents a share. The Bermudan reinsurer Renaissance Re said that it managed to raise its premiums by almost 50% in its Lloyd's syndicate arm, as well as 30% in its other cat and specialty units, and showed that it made money for the first quarter. They ended up making $427 million compared to $248 million last year. The Saudi Arabian Airlines had a little bit of an incident yesterday. An Airbus 300 was forced to crash land when the plane's landing equipment malfunctioned. The plane was flying from Medina, and it took off and had to come back because the landing gear signal light would not retract. It ended up doing a belly landing. There was nobody on the plane except for 10 crew members. It's not known whether the hull is a total loss yet. There's an interesting move. Turkey and Greece are neighbors. They've had a couple of wars over the years, as everybody knows. Standard & Poor's may be starting another one. Standard & Poor's upgraded Greece's credit rating. Greece, the country that's in such dire straits. And they meanwhile lowered Turkey's credit rating. Turkey, an economic powerhouse. The Prime Minister of Turkey blasted S&P today. He said, from now on, we do not recognize you as a ratings agency. He said that your rating decisions this week were ridiculous. And if you thought Michael Jackson was done with, he's not. Pepsi-Cola is resurrecting an ad campaign after having struck a deal with his estate. The ad campaign is going to begin in 6 weeks' time, possibly to coincide with the anniversary of Jackson's death. The ad campaign is going to have the unlikely name of Live for Now, which is a little bit of a misnomer when you're featuring somebody who ended up essentially taking drugs and killing himself. I don't quite understand that, but it's not my decision. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.